Atiku Abubakar, the 2023 presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, urged President Bola Tinubu to show courage by acknowledging the reinstatement of petrol subsidies, which the president had announced to be discontinued months earlier. The petrol subsidy, according to Atiku, have returned. He said that gasoline subsidies have become even wider conduit pipe through which money for funding the 2027 election will come from after losing to Tinubu in the 2023 presidential contest. Now, the former vice president, in a statement made public by his media assistant Frank Shaib during his visit to the FMDQ in France, Qatar, and New York, said Tinubu made false claims about eliminating petrol subsidies. This individual is not sincere about getting foreign direct investment, where Atiku accused President Tinubu of lying to foreign countries about the removal of subsidy in Nigeria. In a statement, Atiku had called out to Tinubu that he told lies about the fuel subsidy removal. The former vice president, who expressed his views, added that Tinubu's actions would have a negative effect on the flow of foreign direct investment in Nigeria, where he said despite the claims of removing the fuel subsidy, petroleum scarcity continues to remain a major challenge in Nigeria. Also, Atiku slammed the Tinubu-led administration for implementing a sham subsidy regime as revealed in the financial statement recently released by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. So, more worrisome is that Tinubu is not even brave enough to admit that subsidy is being paid till today. The NNPCL admits that 7.8 trillion is owned by the National Oil Company by the Nigerian government, but Tinubu has failed woefully to admit to Nigerians that the subsidy is back. So, Atiku have called on to President Bola Tinubu to show bravery and to admit the subsidy return. The former vice president challenged the President Bola Tinubu, to be brave and to admit the return of subsidy months after Tinubu declared that subsidy was gone. Atiku, who we all know lost the 2023 presidential election to Tinubu, insisted that the fuel subsidy has returned and alleging that it has become an even wider conduit pipe through which money for funding the next 2027 election will come from. He also spoke about how the NNPCL, I beg your pardon, admits that over 7.8 trillion is owed to the National Oil Company by the Nigerian government, and the IMF estimates that subsidy payment this year will constitute 3% of GDP, which is about 7.5 billion. This will be about 11.8 trillion, yet the petrol scarcity continues to linger. While the Tinubu administration continues to frustrate the Dangote refinery, even its own NNPCL facilities. Obviously, the subsidy regime has become an even wider conduit pipe through which monies for funding the next election will come from. The Adamawa politician, who also challenged the federal government to clarify how the Oando plc, owned by President Tinubu's nephew Wale Tinubu, received accelerated approval to acquire the onshore assets of Agip-Eni. On Thursday, Oando plc announced the successful completion of its acquisition of 10% of the shares in the Nigerian Agip Oil Company Limited, where they signified that it marked a milestone for Oando NPCL as they announced the finalization of the agreement with ENI to acquire the entire shareholding of the Nigerian Agip Oil Company Limited. Well, in response issued on Saturday, Atiku alleged that Oando received unfair and preferential treatment in the oil and gas sector, which he claimed harmed more capable investors, where he asked the federal government to explain why Oando PLC, owned by Tinubu's nephew, got an accelerated approval to buy these onshore assets. Atiku condemned the House of Representatives for failing to act properly on NNPCL, which has allegedly moved to mortgage the country's national oil assets to vast interests. But then, my country people, this is Atiku, who has revealed a whole lot of things to the masses concerning the oil sector and how Tinubu has personally turned this country into his family private business. According to the former VP, the committee of the NNPCL has revealed to Nigerians that they are still paying fuel subsidy, but then Tinubu has refused to admit that he is still paying subsidy till date. He said a whole lot of things about the president, where he slammed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Yes, it's the work of Atiku Abubakar to criticize Tinubu's government, because as a strong opposition voice, as a strong opposition party weight, it is expected of Atiku to, in one way or the other, conduct constructive criticisms against Mr. President. But Atiku is also not a saint. Atiku is no saint. Atiku Abubakar is no saint. President Bola Tinubu is no saint. All the politicians in Nigeria, none of them are saints. They always have one skeleton in their cupboard. One skeleton or the other will always, be seen in their cupboards. There must be one form of, controversy surrounding them. So one may say that Atiku that is pointing fingers towards Tinubu is also not clean himself, that his hands are also not clean. Because during his tenure as the VP to Obasanjo, back then Atiku also had a lot of deeds he engaged himself with. And Nigerians can never forget. So now it's the turn of Tinubu. Atiku has been crying and shouting and raising alarm over the affairs of the APC government under President Bola Tinubu. So guys, I'm dropping here. Kindly share your thoughts on this in the comments section. Thank you.